was creating new information. That's how humans also learn, right? We learn certain alphabets. We start reading with those alphabets and reading. We kind of create new. We read more and more, and we create more knowledge, and we learn more out of it. So it is in some way creation of content by existing content. This is an interesting slide. Microsoft put it a couple of months back in their session. Let me hide my window. Sorry, I should have got it out. Yeah. So this is the speed in which this whole generative AI technology has grown. ChatGPT has become the fastest application that's been adopted by users. In less than about 2 months, when they launched late last year, early this year, they got 100 million users with iPhone. Then they released Android. Still, it's fastest. Facebook took about 4.5 years. Internet took 7 years. Mobile phone 16 years, and all that. It also means today people are more aware, more knowledgeable about technology. When something new like this comes, they're able to take advantage of it a lot more faster. And ChatGPT is one of the products. It's by a company called OpenAI. They started, Elon Musk was one of the founders, but as with anything else with Mr. Musk, he doesn't like the company now. He's talking about passing them and recreating something else and all that. But he was one of the financial founders, sponsors. Many other people are involved in that today. Microsoft is a very early investor. I believe today about $10 billion they have invested on this company. They have been working on this for almost a decade now. And the product they released was called ChatGPT, which is a generative AI. Another term you will be hearing is called LLM, large language models, because these tools like ChatGPT and the other generative AI tools are built on large corpus of language data. So that's why they're called large language models. We'll do a quick comparison rather than doing slides. We'll see some examples, and you can unmute. And if you want to try something interesting, you can let me know. So let's go to ChatGPT first and give it a try. We'll do a favorite one. I'll say, give me a light bulb joke. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with a light bulb joke, but it basically talks about how many people does it take to change a light bulb. So I'm going to be asking, give a light bulb joke involving Rajnikant. So that's what, with the jailer success, that's what we'll have to do. So okay. And it says, why did Rajnikant bring a lander to change a light bulb? Because he wanted to climb up and fix the sun. So you get the idea. If you keep asking it, the next time it will be giving you a different one. And if you notice one thing here, it's very fast in this particular example, but as we move on, you will notice this, whether it is Bard or Bing Chat, you will see it kind of takes a few milliseconds before it actually generates the content. It is actually generating the content. This is in comparison with what typically Google does. If I go this and then Google it, you will kind of see the result instantaneously. Google is not going to be, it's just going to compute and give the results. Sorry. I'm going to let me go to google.com. Okay. And I'm going to be giving the same light bulb joke. I hope it is not offensive. Light bulb jokes tend to be offensive. That's why I'm taking Rajnikant. But if you notice here, it kind of instantaneously gave this response of this list. The jokes might be good, but Google is not generating anything right here. It has already crawled the internet. From the internet where it finds references about these keywords you have given, it's bringing and giving you. So it's not generating, it is searching. So that's why Google is a search engine, whereas all these generative AI tools like this, we are calling it as generating. They are based on generative AI, they are generative tools and all that. We can do a lot of things in this, but I'll show you one more example and then I'll move on to Bing Chat and Bard and we'll move on. We'll keep going. This is an example I tried a couple of months back. I said, focus on this. I said, you are a new type of calendar. I told ChatGPT, you're a new type of calendar where months are colors and days are fruits. So instead of January, February, March, I said January is red, February was white, and so on. Similarly, day 1 is apple, day 2 is banana, day 3 is pineapple, so on and so forth. Why do I want a calendar like this? Tools are available. So we just see how well we can use them. But the point is two things. Before we even see the output, you can see that. But before I explain that, I'm not completing this line. Earlier in computers, when you write program, I'll have to, if I'm declaring variables, even basic programming, I'll have to say variable A is equal to 1, variable 2 is equal to this. If I say January, February are variables, then I have to declare all of them till December. In this case, I just said, for example, January is equal to red, February equals to white, and so on. I didn't finish it. Kind of it's equivalent to what we do in Excel, where we just do 2 and we pull down the pointer at the bottom, the plus sign, it kind of autofills. That's kind of the instruction. So that you see some similarities between that. But the point I want you to focus, this is more in a conversation way. When we humans talk, we don't kind of full everything. We just say, hey, this is 1 is like this, 2 is like this. You go and figure out rest. That's how even children learn. Okay. And I said day 1 is equal to apple, day 2 is banana, like etc. So it kind of gives me an output now. It says January is red, February white, etc. And it explained. This is also an interesting thing about this ChatGPT. Google didn't explain why it gave this results. But here, these ChatGPT kind of explains why it gives this. For the sake of simplicity, let's say there are 31 different fruits, kind of tries to explain. And you can even ask the question, can you explain it further? Why did you choose banana for day 2, brown for September? It's going to give you some explanation. Another thing to remember, this is not definitive. The answers it gives need not be correct. So you might say, Venkat, what is this? If it's not correct, what is the purpose of these tools? The purpose of these tools is it's a language tool. It's not an encyclopedia. It's not a banking register where data has to be correct. Most often in the last 6 months, many of us are using it all across the world. Like 100 million today, there might be about 200 million users. As all of us are using these LLMs, generative AI tools, ChatGPT, so on, we are learning how to effectively use them. When grammar check initially came, we didn't know how to use it. Now we know how to use grammar check and all that. So these tools are evolving. So in this case, you can ask it to explain, and it kind of does. Now I'm asking it a question, what will be March 10th in this calendar? It says March 10th in this calendar will be blue. And what is the fruit? It's saying probably, I don't know, orange. And blue, orange is what in my calendar, March 10th is going to be. So these kind of hypothetical scenarios you can give. This might be a stupid example. Why do you want to use this? But you can, if you think about this, you can come up with examples in your own field or business where you can give this hypothetical scenarios and see how it come up with some text or come up with some solutions. I have found out, these are some of the examples I've used ChatGPT many as we move on. Where I have found it very useful is for me to get over a white page syndrome. Starting with a white page, we want to write a document. ChatGPT is extremely useful to get you started. It may not give you the perfect document, it may not give you the correct document, but it gets you started. And once you have some initial item that you work, it helps you to refine them. That's where it is very useful. And that's also the reason, if you just remember this, that's also the reason Microsoft is calling their tools as Copilot. Okay, and one of them I'm going to be using here. This is called the Bing Copilot. I've just clicked a button on the right-hand side called Bing Chat. You can also access this by bing.com/chat. I've got a Edge browser. So in the Microsoft Edge browser, it kind of comes in the right-hand side as a plugin, but you can use it in anything. There is also an app for this. If you search Bing Chat in iOS or Android, it's a free app right now. So Microsoft calls this as Copilot. It is not a pilot, it's a Copilot. Remember these words. Like I said, remember, it is not creation, it is generative, and it is not pilot, it is Copilot. If you remember these, you'll figure out, it will be very helpful for you to understand these tools. So let's come back here and ask the same. In this case, let me try something else. Okay, so I'll say generate a story, a comedy story for who do I pick up? Kamala Hassan movie, okay? And it's going to generate some, hopefully a story. And one of the things in technology demos, I was trained by my mentors, don't try a new demo on stage. But here, this is a new query. I haven't tried it before, so I don't know what's going to come. And even in this Bing Chat, the same query, if you generate it the next time, the results can be different also. They are not finite. They are not conclusive. They can generate a new result next time. So it's kind of giving me an answer. In this case, I don't think so. It's generating. It is telling me an existing story. Probably I'll copy this and go to this compose and say, give it a shot, see whether it is able to generate a story for me. Earlier, I tried a Vadivelu, a serious movie. It gave me a very interesting movie about Vadivelu having his parents killed and he taking vengeance against them and all. It was quite fun reading them. Yes, it's given me a story. I don't know whether it's comedy, whatever. I can read quickly. Kamal Hassan is a struggling actor who dreams of becoming a superstar. He gets auditioned for a comedy movie directed by a famous filmmaker, so on and so forth. Kind of, if you are thinking a story, the story may not be good. I haven't read it, but it kind of gives you a starting point to start working on. So that's the other thing you could be using this. So we have seen two tools right now, Chat GPT and Microsoft's Bing, which is free. In the Chat GPT, if I actually start a new chat, you'll see there is another thing called Chat GPT 4. That's a paid one. I didn't renew my subscription this month, but the GPT 3.5 is their earlier model. 4 is their newer model. Even that is getting revised. And if you're a paid user to Chat GPT, which is about $20, you kind of get additional features. I don't have the time in this talk to cover, so I'm not going there. So we saw Chat GPT, we saw Bing. Let's try to use the Google equivalent. This is Bard. Now, in this case, let me try something else. Give me a travel itinerary for 2 days to go to Tanjavur and Madurai from Chennai, only kids-friendly places. Again, I don't know what it's going to do, whether Tanjore has any kids-friendly places. I have absolutely no idea. So if you see, it's taking time. In this case, it's very clearly, you can notice the delay. Unlike it's the same thing you try in Google. We all know the results are going to come kind of instant. Now it's kind of giving me a itinerary here. Day 1, you can start with the Periyakovil, Bragadishwara temple, and then you move on in the afternoon, you go to Tanjore Palace. Day 2, you see the Meenakshi Amman temple, Tirnayak. It's kind of generating. It's very interesting. And it's also given me the references. Again, this may not be to your interest, but it's able to give you a start. And these tools are also called as chat tools because you can kind of keep interacting with them. Google search, you give a search, you finish, and the next search is completely different. You're starting from scratch. You can't say refer my earlier search and continue. Here I can do. Now I can say these are the results. Now I can say give me a table of the place names and the time they are open. I didn't say what places. I didn't say which are the places or what places in this because it's able to take the context from the last answer that it gave. So it is generating these things. And when I say give me a table, it's also produced a table for me. And it picked up the places it generated in the previous answer and the time they are open. Very convenient. And I can export it to an Excel sheet. So you can see the use case for this. I can ask for some data. I can ask it to generate. I can ask it to collate. I can ask it to put it in a table, take it to sheets, and I can start working on them. We'll see a slightly more powerful examples in a minute. But you can see how the same thing if we are doing, we have to do so many Google searches and then copy paste each of them into Google Sheets. So what probably will take about an hour to generate this table has just come in a matter of a minute or even less than that. And you can imagine for complex queries involving data, statistics, Wikipedia references, this is going to be so useful. We'll see one of the examples like that in a minute. Now, one of the examples I tried sometime back is that I wanted to see, I don't know why, this is a query I made. Sometime back, I had this query on, does graduation being educated prevents you from getting arrested? I don't know, I just read some news article. I was very curious. Now, normally what we would have done, we would have taken this number of prisoners in India, queried, went into Wikipedia, took the data and see in each of them, what are their education qualification and all that. I have to collate this data. And probably after 15 minutes and a coffee, I would have given it up. It's not useful. It's not my work. Just a curious question. Now, the same thing, if I wanted to do, I'm just taking it to Bing, Bard in this case, and doing this. So it kind of says, I don't have access to this and all that, but you can start probing it. Let me try the same thing on chat. Earlier, I got an example. I'll show you the results I got out of this in a minute. I'm going to Bing and asking the same query. And this is something you should be trying because each of these, though they are based on the similar technology, each company have made it in their own way and they have trained on their own data. Bing is giving me some results. Sorry, the one I used earlier was, in this case, this was Chat GPT. This was Bing on the right-hand side. Let me go to Google Bard. I'll say new chat. Paste the same query. What is the total number of people in prison in India? Can you further classify them to those who have a graduate degree and do not? And even in that query, which is called a prompt, which I'll explain in a few minutes, you will see I'm able to collect two things. I just didn't ask what is the total number of prisoners. I've also asked, can you classify them further into those who have graduate degree or not? And in this case, it is able to give me this thing. And I can go on ahead and ask it to, can you put it in a table? And there are some caveats which I've explained in my blog post on this, if you're curious about this topic. Some of this data here may not be accurate, so you'll have to cross references. So I wrote a big article on some time back on this. Let me just see if I can quickly get that thing from my blog. So in this case, I went ahead and did some more research on this. There were charts available, and it's a very good way for me to start working on this problem. Okay, so in Tamil. So from the results I got in Bard earlier, I was able to find out that Government of India generates a chart. They do a report every year from an organization called NCRB, and they do these charts. And I was able to ask further queries and then figure out that there is a difference between those percentage of people who are graduates who go into jail is only 10%, which means if you are educated, you are graduate, 90% of there is a chance you won't end up in prison. But the conviction rates, there the graduates increase to about 20%. So if you are a graduate, the percentage you will get convicted is about 20%. So let's not get into why and all that. But I was able to do this whole research using Bard, Bing, and ChatGPT in probably about half an hour, 1 hour, which should have taken me hours if I had to read the NCRB report myself. Okay, so I did a similar, can I call it research? I don't know, because Bard was doing all the heavy lifting. I wanted to find out, I saw an advertisement about Rajasthan, that it was the biggest state in India. I always presumed Madhya Pradesh is the biggest state in India, but I'm completely wrong. It is Rajasthan in terms of area, and Madhya Pradesh comes only second. And then I asked further queries. I've explained all that in this blog. I'm not going to go into each step I did, what prompt I gave and all that. It's in my blog. The next thing I thought, okay, because of the states were bifurcated, some of the states were divided, like your Uttarakhand, Jharkhand. If it is not Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh would be bigger. Still, it is not so. So I was able to ask Bard that, and it classified. Still, it's not the bigger one. It is able to combine also. Like if you see here, it was able to combine Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, total it up, and also give me the results and all that. Kind of as a co-pilot, it was able to work along with me, help me in this. But again, remember, these things are generating data. So though they are taking references from Wikipedia and all, they are also generating. When they are generating, they do something called as hallucination. They kind of daydream. So always double check the data that they are giving. If I have to double check what is the use of using a computers, it's not like that. These tools are evolving. And these companies also, the last couple of months, building guardrails and ensuring and doing validations whether this data are correct. But the way these tools work, they are generating data. So please don't treat it as a definitive or like an encyclopedia or anything. So those are some of the examples. We'll move on to my slides and then come back. And you might ask how these tools are able to do this. Where did they learn? All this artificial learning, machine learning, they need large amount of data, large corpus of data. And Facebook has a tool called Llama, which are similar to ChatGPT. I'll try to show you a demo of it in a minute. They are trained on this data, Common Crawl, which basically has crawled most of the internet, about 3.3 TB size. And they use GitHub, Wikipedia, books, so on and so forth. This is all kind of the sample data, pre-training data that they have been used to train. And ChatGPT, Bing, and Bard also use human intervention, where humans are shown. In I believe ChatGPT used these kind of trainers in Kenya and in India, where these people are shown large examples, large volumes of examples every day, and say whether this is correct, how do you associate this? So large amount of training data. They were also tuned by human curators, And that's how these tools are able to learn. Now I'll show you an example of Facebook's thing. That is one thing interesting about Facebook thing. This is Facebook Llama, Dalai Lama, but nothing to do with the spiritual leader we all respect. Just called the basic framework is called Dalai, and the tool is called actually Llama. So that's how they named it. This is one by Stanford University. They open source what Facebook Meta created, the Llama model, and they opened it as Stanford Alpaca. That's the thing. And this I've installed in my machine. Whereas this Bard, ChatGPT, Bing all ran on their cloud network. So whatever you're searching is going to go to them. So if you're searching about something which you don't want government or Microsoft or Google to know, please don't use any of these tools, because whatever you're searching, whatever you're asking it to generate, are all going to their cloud computers. And with the India's Digital Privacy Act, Government of India has rights to query these companies, ask them to give these data to them. And if you follow the principle, you have nothing, you're not doing anything illegal, you have nothing to hide, perfectly fine. But if not, be careful. And companies are starting to ban these tools because companies are putting their confidential data. If you're an automobile company and you're talking about your new car, if you're going to be searching or asking, can you generate a marketing material for me with a car with 2 doors, 1 sunroof, but 2 wheels, but running on hydrogen? And that's not something you want your competitor to know. But in this case, this data are going to go to the big tech. Whether they sell it to your competitors, I don't know, but there is a possibility. So in those cases, be very careful about these things. You can also deploy these tools. Microsoft has a version of ChatGPT, which you can deploy on their Azure cloud only for your organization. Those are also available, in which case data doesn't go anywhere else other than your instances, but we'll try to see that in a little later. But if you don't want to use any of these cloud providers, can I run these models locally? To train these models, if you see, ChatGPT also says I've been trained only up to September 2021. That's almost 2 years. It takes them like enormous amount of computer power, an enormous amount of time to train it. That's why they are not updated after 2021. Bing and Bard takes slightly a different approach using plugins, which I will try to explain a little later. But all of these are running on the cloud. So I have here installed Dalai Lama, the Facebook version of Generative AI or their model, customized by Stanford University, called as Alpaca, and I'm running it on my local Linux machine here. So somewhere here I'm starting, you will see a command somewhere here called npx Dalai serve here. That's how I'm starting that particular server and running. You don't need to understand, but the point is I'm running a server here locally and I'm using it here. And these are 2 instances I tried here. I'm asked you to write a Superman story with Mahatma Gandhi as hero. And it said, create an origin myth for India and then use Indian culture, religion, and then you can come up with some. It's able to give me a starting point for a story. This is not as good as ChatGPT or Bard because this only uses about 7 billion parameters, whereas ChatGPT and Bard uses nearly hundreds of billions of parameters. What are those parameters? They're kind of, imagine them to be, they're not equivalents, but kind of as number of columns in your Excel sheet. And as more columns in Excel sheet, more richer your data becomes, which we can imagine. Here in this case, this uses about 7 billion model. They have released a new one a couple of weeks back, new version of this, which I haven't deployed it yet. So in this particular case, Facebook doesn't see this. Nobody saw this query that I wrote about, write a Superman story with Mahatma Gandhi as hero. Nobody can take offense of this because I'm not, other than in this talk, I'm not showing this thing to anybody else. And no, it's running in my server here locally, unless somebody physically takes my server here and then access it. They can't be getting access to this data or this result. Then I said, write a comedy film story featuring Rajnikant and Jennifer Lawrence. It's able to generate me a story. I kind of read it earlier. It's not very interesting. It doesn't probably even make sense, but kind of starts. Again, you can run these locally is the point I want to make. If you ask certain queries in Bing Chat or Bard, these are going to be prevented. Like you saw a big box here. Try, and it looks like there are some words that are automatically blocked. As these companies understand what people are asking, they are also blocking many of these queries or keywords. If it is about anything riskier, associated to terrorism, bomb making, or pornography, stuff like that are going to be blocked, and companies are blocking more and more and more. and governments are going to give them a bigger list of things to block. And companies are calling it, again, American companies, they don't call blocking as blocking, they call it as guardrails. Okay, they are saying you will fall off, so we are trying to guard you. But then it's their infinite wisdom whether they are guardrails or blocked or whatever it is. So in those cases, we'll have to go to the open source models like this, where we can do this. Becomes more important when we are generating images, which we'll see later. So kind of I've, in probably 20-30 minutes, I've kind of given you a whirlwind tour about ChatGPT, Bard, Bing Chat, and Dalai Lama. All of them are so far free. Bard and Bing Chat and Bard from Google are likely to be free forever. ChatGPT have started charging, and I suppose they will. But if you don't want to pay and everything, you can then start deploying models like Dalai Lama onto your local machine. So we'll switch gears. We'll see them slightly in one more, and then we will move on. Okay, I'll skip here and come here. I'll try to show you the same thing. What if you're running your own cloud instances, you're on Azure, you don't want this to be on the public internet, but you want it to be on the instances that you're paying for Microsoft. When I say Microsoft, you can, most of this is available from Google, available from Amazon. They are not interchangeable, but they are very similar. So you can replace with whoever cloud provider you're using. And this is a playground in Azure. It's called oai.azure.com. It's still invite only. Even if you have an Azure account, you might have to be invited for this. So in this particular case, okay, there are multiple things you can do. I'm going to be, this is a playground where basically very quickly you can play around with these tools and try to see how they work. You kind of assembling your own version. Imagine something like that. I'll choose something like an Xbox customer support. These are templates, like Word templates. They're giving templates, but they are not limited. You can come up with your own templates. You can start customizing them. If you know a bit of JSON or Python programming, you can start extending them and all that. But these are standard templates. I'm using them just to give you an idea that you, instead of the public cloud, you can go get an Azure Playground, do something which is only in your subscription. Nobody else sees this. Microsoft says even they don't see this. And I try to believe them. So let's just leave it there. So let me use an Xbox customer support agent template. It kind of explains who's this, what is this bot, what is this chat bot about. You're an Xbox customer support whose primary goal is to help users, etc., etc. So I'll say, now, if this is the system that you've built, and you can, I've also given some example, how much is a PS5? In this case, it's going to say PS5 is a competing game machine from Sony. It says, I don't know anything about Sony. I'm a Microsoft customer support engine. I can start asking some other queries. When can you deliver my food? Okay. Most often, that's customer support. You're asking questions. You're likely to ask stupid questions. Okay. There's a famous book by Zappos founder, the company, that shoe company that Amazon Amazon purchased. Tony Hsieh, who's the CEO, unfortunately died a couple of years back. The way he tests his customer support, he calls from unknown number his customer support and say, where is the best place for me to order a pizza in Las Vegas? And their customer support kind of says, we only sell pizza, shoes. But since you asked our thing, we always want to help you. And these are the places in which you can get pizza in Las Vegas. And that, he says, is a proof of a good customer service. I don't know who's going to foot the bill, but that's his idea, Tony Hsieh's idea of a great customer support. In this case, the engine that we kind of just dropped down and built, it says, I'm sorry, I'm an Xbox customer support. I can't talk anything about delivery food. But I can ask about it. What is the subscription for Xbox for Game Pass? It should be able to give me an answer. It kind of gives me an answer. But if you notice here, unlike traditional programming where you have to give all this data, connect to database, give all this data, it's able to pick it up from common knowledge, because that's the advantage with these large language models. They've already been trained on that gigabits of data that we saw that Facebook had trained their Llama. Similarly, Microsoft has trained their model on large amounts of data already. So what is common knowledge in the internet? These models already know. So if you just say you're an Xbox customer support, and you start asking it question, it can start answering it. So there is no traditional lengthy time or effort that you need to program these models. That's also the reason why these data may not be definitive, because it doesn't pick up this 9.99 from a database in your server. It just picked up from the public internet. So I can play around with many of this. I can also go ahead and start generating image, which we'll do a little later. Okay. Now, in many of these things, you would have seen me doing something called as a prompt. Prompt is basically this command. When I type this, what is the total number of people in prison in India? It's basically called, we'll traditionally call it as a command, but here it's called as a prompt. Or in Bard, when I say, can you put it in a table, I'm prompting it. Again, remember the choice of these words very carefully. It's not a command. Command are expected to be definitive. Prompts are just prompts. You just prompt it and it may or may not take it. Anyways, so elements of a prompt, it's basically instruction to your model to do something. You're also setting a context. In the Xbox example we saw, I'm setting a context that you're an Xbox support person, and I'm giving it some data, which is input data, or I'm asking a question, then I'm saying an output indicator. In the case I said the Rajasthan state data, I said, please give it to me as a table. So I kind of said, what is the output? I gave it an instruction. I set up some context. I'm giving it some data. I'm saying this is the format I want you to give it to me. So this is the structure of a prompt. Different types of prompts. The reason I'm covering them is when you read any materials about generative AI, you will be able to follow that they are not magic. They are not anything mysterious. You can start following them. They're pretty simple. Zero-shot prompts, or when I just went into Bard and say, can you write a story about Rajnikant, which is a comedy movie? I didn't give it any examples. I just asked a question or gave a prompt. So it's called a zero-shot prompt. Few shot prompts, I kind of give it some examples. In the case of the Xbox, if you notice, wherever in this case, I gave some examples. If I scroll down, I would have given I said, what about how much is a PS5? And I also gave it an answer. If somebody asked what is the price of PS5, this is what you have to answer. In this case, I've given it multiple prompts. Okay, I'm kind of oversimplifying the terms here, but you will get the idea. A few short prompts. I basically give some demonstrations. I steer the model to better performance. Then I kind of give chain of thought prompting, which is what we give follow-on queries. I can do that. Then I can also do generative knowledge prompting. I can say, if this is the thing, you generate this. If this is what you generate, you do this, so on and so forth. General tips, if you are using any of these tools, try to be very instructive. Use the words very carefully. Write, classify, translate, order, summarize. These words work beautifully. And remember, these tools don't understand like what we humans understand a query. They take the keywords, and these tools are they're designed to complete a sentence. They're also called you can imagine them to be better versions of autocomplete. If you go into the ChatGPT's playground, they'll actually have a walkthrough of these tools are built. If you go there, you will actually see that you give a question halfway. These tools are compulsive. They try to finish the questions. Like what I did for January is equal to Apple, February is equal to Orange. If I just press that, you will see that they're completing it for March to December. These tools are compulsive to finish it. They were actually built to autocomplete, but they kind of evolved to something else, but that's for a different discussion. So use commands which are very clear, be instructive. Try various words also. Okay. Be very specific and keep your queries. They have something called as a token limit. So try to keep them very short and be precise. Don't say, can you do this, maybe that. They kind of don't figure out that. And then avoid saying what not to do. So don't say, please don't generate a story about Rajnikant movie, but don't include Kamala Hassan. May not be the best way to get best results. Try to avoid them. Okay, we have seen this. We'll switch gears probably I'll take another 10 minutes to wrap up. Music plugin, we have seen how these tools can be used to generate text, but these are also called as multi-modal. So which means they can not only generate text, they can generate music, they can generate images. We'll see a quick example about music. A similar thing is this one is if you are in the paid version of ChatGPT, you can ask it, generate a violin-only song to celebrate a victory, and it will generate a music notes for me. And this you can take it and then put it in any MIDI software and play. Okay, and this is the notation, and it's even will very likely play. Okay, it's kind of expired, but you will see the thing. This is by ChatGPT through a plugin, which you'll have to pay for. But this is the one from Facebook, which is open source free. It's available from if you search for Facebook music generator, it's available online. They have published the source code also for this. In this case, I said that drums only music for celebration of a victory, and it's able to generate. This is completely computer generated. This music is not being fed by Facebook or anything. And there is also cases now in the US courts about who owns the copyright for this. Just because I typed the drums only music for celebration and click this button, do I own the copyright, or the Facebook owns the copyright, or this company Huffing Face who hosted this algorithm, they own the copyright? Things are not clear, but they will be. If you're curious, we could give it a try. Let's see if I have it opened anywhere. Okay, let's see. Yeah. You want to try something? Any suggestions by anyone? Okay, so what do I pick up? A sad song with violin. Okay, that's the how much creative I am being. So it's going to generate it for you. If you can see, it's going to be taking time. Musics do take time. Even text in the Bard example we saw, it took some time, but these things are certainly going to take time. And it's hosted. They require enormous amount of computing power. So the company which is offering it free, Huffing Face, is not going to give us so much computing power to make it faster. It's going to take some time and generate, but you kind of get the idea. You can just search Facebook music generator on Google and go to this page and play around with it. It's very interesting. And if you're someone who knows music notes, it can be very useful. One of the things that people have found out in the last few months about using these tools effectively is to train, is to educate people learning. It's phenomenal, whether you're learning music or art or text, writing, anything. It's so useful. Khan Academy, Mr. Khan has done a YouTube video. If you're interested, you should watch out his YouTube video where he talks about how Khan Academy is using these generative AI tools to help people learn, especially in places in Africa where they don't have teachers. There is an algebra equation. You will see the result in a textbook, but you don't know how they come up with the answer. Most often we go to our teachers and say, there is this result, but I don't know how it is computed. Those kind of queries, if you say x is equal to 10 plus 5, what is x? So those kind of algebraic queries, these tools are able to solve it, and they will also give you the steps by which they solved it. Caveat still holds, they may not be right. So you might want to use different versions of these tools, and you might want to ask it to explain the steps. And if you know basic algebra, you'll be able to figure out where these tools have gone wrong and ask it to course correct and all that. So we have seen text, we have seen playgrounds, we have seen prompts. We'll switch on, we'll move on. We'll then do last one we'll do about this portrait. And this is a query I gave Demi Moore in Raja Ravi Verma style. Into the Bing also has this. Let me show you. I'll show you this output and then go there. It kind of gave me this result. Whether it resembles a Ravi Verma painting, whether it is Demi Moore, I leave it to your imagination, but it's able to do. So we'll see how this works. I'm going to go to the same Bing chat, but in this case, Bing chat also has this feature called as image creator. So I'm going to be using, say, please don't judge me that I'm using only heroines' names. That's what comes up to my mind immediately. Jennifer Aniston in Indian costumes. Okay, so it's going to generate this image for me. I tried something interesting. I said Taj Mahal, take Taj Mahal, put it in San Francisco, moonlight, show me an image. And it kind of said I'm blocking it. I don't know why, but it kind of blocked it. But that same thing, if I'm running an open source model, which I'll show in a minute, it can. I don't see any Jennifer Aniston here. And I also don't see any Indian costumes, but I might be able to get this better results from some other tool. Okay. So this is the one I tried. ChatGPT also has a plugin. I asked a young boy and girl going on a picnic in front of Taj Mahal eating lunch. It was able to do. But Stable Diffusion was able to give me a better result. So one second, let me Okay. Okay. This is it. In this case, I tried the same query with ChatGPT with the photo generation plugin, and it kind of gave me a description. It gave me this prompt, and then I took this prompt and I used it in another tool to generate the image. So basically, I'm chaining multiple tools. Okay. And in this case, this query, I've sent it to the Microsoft server for image creator. Like I said, Microsoft can see these queries that I'm using. Instead, I want to run it on open source. I'm running another Ubuntu installation here where I'm running Stable Diffusion. This is a model which is open source. It's available on the internet that I've deployed on my local Linux machine, and I can use it here. I can take this query and then put it here. In this case, okay. In this case, I gave a query, boy driving in a mountain, I said, and it's able to generate an image. This is an open source. The point again is you can run it on their cloud or you can run it locally. Anyways, you can do, but if you're running it locally, you'll have to deploy these models here. Okay. Let's take the same query. We'll go to the Adobe as a similar tool. We'll try to see it for Adobe and then we'll wrap up. Again, multiple companies that if you search App Store today, there are lots and lots of these apps available. Okay. So for that young boy and girl sitting in picnic Taj Mahal, this is the Stable Diffusion output. Adobe Firefly also gave me similar outputs. It's better quality as you can see. And these are getting improved more and more. Microsoft also a tool called Designer, which is also free. You can give it a try. It's like your Canva. There's another tool from a company which is able to give you better photorealistic images. When I can do this, these look as good as a photograph. Lastly, this is the last couple of slides and I'm going to wrap up. All these examples, we use the data that's available in the public internet and we were able to query it. Now, in this case, if you want to use it for your corporate data and you're having a large corpus of data, you can connect your data sources to OpenAI service and run it either in, say, Google or Google's large language model or Microsoft Azure OpenAI. And you can deploy this data onto their model, which doesn't leave your instances, and you can write your applications. Lastly, when we are generating these images, even music, even text, we don't know what is computer generated, what is human generated. So especially answer results, teachers are finding it very difficult. There are also tools that are coming up to classify whether this was done by computers or this was done by humans. So these are some of the examples. You search as a text classifier or a human computer detectors. There are a lot of these. The images, any of the images we generated, if you're able to put it to offing face, this particular tool, image generated, will tell whether it's computer generated, it's not computer generated. Companies like Google and Microsoft are also trying to do invisible watermarking so that they know whether these tools are computer generated or not. False news, fake news, these are being used, so we have to be very careful with them. Lastly, this is what I like to conclude with. Doug Engelbart, who's the inventor of computer mouse, said this famous quote about 60 years back: technology should not aim to replace humans, rather amplify human capabilities. If these generative AI tools are used correctly, they will certainly complement human capabilities. And the last couple of months, I've been using it regularly to write my blogs, improve my blogs. It's able to give me suggestions, word suggestions, grammar suggestions, sentence formation suggestions, which I couldn't have imagined otherwise. So they have been really powerful. And a lot of these tools are also being used in the Copilot situations where like Microsoft is trying to put it in Windows. So if you don't know how to use Windows, it will be able to help you and so on. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.